By the time I put together the questions, by the time I put together the groups, by the time I get in there and I do the survey, and then I take the time to analyze the survey, take the results, put it into a plan, figure out how to implement it, and then push it out. At best, I'm looking at 6 months. And that's because we've got a very well-trained executive group. Sometimes it's just sort of like, please trust me, let me do this. And they're like, just, get out of here, or you're bothering me, kind of thing. And other times it's very important, and we really spend time, and it could be even longer, and the reality is by that time it's now no longer relevant. It's just not. You know, why do you think, perfect example, sort of, and it's a outside, but stop and think, why do you think GM said it cannot take us 3 years to design a car? We want to do the focus groups, we want to take the information, we want to go right in, we want to do 3D modeling. We need to have a car in 9 months. Because in 3 years, that car is no longer relevant. And look at what happened to them as a company. They were no longer relevant. What's the first thing they did? They go to Europe, they go to Asia, and exactly what did they learn from them? They said, what are you, nuts? We don't do clay models. We don't do all that stuff anymore. That's old school. We go in, we do 3D modeling. I've got a car like in an hour. And then the group is still out there, you know, we hire them for the week. By the end of the week we go, is that what you were thinking of? And everybody goes, yeah. Or, well, no, and then they make another. They're done. They're in manufacturing. They're already tooling. Does that make sense? That is the speed at which our world works now. That is the speed at which you need to work now. That is what the expectation of your client is, who is in fact in control of your brand. That's the only way that I can put it. I mean, I wish I could use softer words, or I don't have the time right now. Under normal circumstances, if they had alcohol in front of us, I'm chiming. Okay?
When you say that you have a sales and marketing strategy that includes the voice of the customer, when you say voice of the customer, do you mean that you talk to the customer to get their feedback?
Yeah.
Or that it just speaks to the customer?
No, it is using Twitter, it's using Twitter, it's using Facebook, it's using website interaction. It is having that input from your customers on it with an immediacy. Okay? By the way, I mean, the rest of the slides are incredibly interesting. You love them. The only thing that I will want you to walk away with is this. We did an enormous amount of research. We do it on a constant basis. What we have come to determine, and please, you have to understand, although I work for a paper company, truthfully, every year I have to decide whether I want to continue to work for a paper company, because I have options. Hey. But the fact is that in all the research I do, it always comes back down to this core, and believe me when I tell you this. Print is still the foundational cornerstone of integrated marketing. We will always have magazines. Magazines, direct mail, catalog will always be with us. Collateral will always be with us, okay? First and foremost regarding magazines, please use magazines well, because you will never have a better targeted marketing tool than that. You want to get to 17-year-old girls, there's a magazine for that. You want to talk to men from 45 to 54, there are magazines in that is specific. Let me put it this way to you, which really works. If you were to take all of the magazines that you read in a month, save them, spread them out on a table, you're going to have some trade magazines, you're going to have some special interest magazines, you're going to have some hobby, you're going to have all that. In fact, what you're going to realize, if you really look at it, it is truly a reflection of who you are and your character. Does that make sense? And my point is, if I want to get to a very targeted demographics, I do it through direct mail, because I buy that list, or I do it through magazines, because in fact, that works. Let me put it this way to you. It is exactly the same thing that is happening online. It is like I go to LinkedIn, and why do you think LinkedIn created the groups? Color group, marketing group, whatever, because they want us to subsection ourselves into special interest groups. Imagine that those are the online magazine groups that speak about very special topics without solicitation. The beauty of it is, when I go to the 2D, the AR code group or the augmented reality group, there are no ads. But the most amazing thing is, I say, hey, I'm a bank and I want to use augmented reality codes, in my thing. And all of a sudden, I start in that chat room. I am talking to people from all over the world who are saying, I use this software, I tested it this way. They're telling me they're doing the solicitation for the companies. They'll say, oh, I use Adobe, this, or I use whatever. So the company doesn't have to be there selling its stuff. I'm selling the stuff for them. Does that make sense? Direct mail is going to continue to grow. Why? Key point. Singularly, we started talking about Drupal. Singularly, the most important disruptive technology that is going to hit us right away is going to be inkjet. Inkjet printing is going to be huge. In the next 3 to 5 years, depending on your market, over half of all the printing that you will buy will be digital, but it will not be toner-based, it will be inkjet-based. Inkjet equipment, first of all, is incredibly fast. It's breathtakingly beautiful. I mean, talk about competing with offset, it does. And the beauty of it is they're now making inkjet printers that are 40 inches wide. It can do a 40 by 28 inch sheet of paper. 12,000, 15,000 impressions an hour. Devastatingly beautiful, and here's the key. It's doing 12 to 15,000 impressions an hour, and it's changing the copy on the fly. The next major disruptive technology for us, vis-a-vis what we do, will be data and asset management software. The ability to manage assets through metadata like never before. Is everybody cool with metadata? Metadata, if you're not, it is a software program that essentially embeds a search engine capability to images, illustrations, scans. So I can go in and just type in what I'm looking for. It goes through my database and it finds what I'm looking for, thumbnails thereof. The ability for us to change on the fly. Here's the interesting thing. Let me put it this way to you, based on all the research we've done. We all know about personalization, using a name, last millennium. New versioning, changing the copy based on the targeted audience, but also, key point, not just changing the copy, changing the language. We must understand that in the United States we are multilingual. Not doing a drop with a portion of it being in Spanish just doesn't make sense. Okay? I grew up in Chicago, second largest Polish neighborhood in the world after Warsaw. Not doing a drop in Polish in Chicago is telling that community you don't want their business. It's the truth. But now we've got the capability of changing copy, changing languages, changing imagery. I change it from an Anglo family to a Hispanic family, to an African American family, to an Asian family, and now I'm really talking to that audience, letting them know I know exactly who they are. Is it more expensive? Yeah, but I gotta tell you what the biggest change that we are going to have to make is stop trying to put a unit price on stuff and start looking at it from a response on a return on response. If I can increase your response from 2% to 5%, what's that worth to you? 5% to I have customers right now, I swear to you, I have customers right now I do direct mail campaigns for. We are anywhere between 12 and 16% response rates. In some cases with pre-qualified audiences, we are in the 30, 35, 40% response rates. Because we're using QR codes, we're all using augmented reality, we're using things like foil stamping, die cutting, we're doing everything we can to engage the customer, hold their attention with enough time to make sure that we are giving them the offer, we're telling them what the call to action is, and then incentivizing them in a way that they really believe that we are credible and they should be doing business with us. Is it more expensive? Yes, honest to God, I am not cheap. No doubt about it. Reality is, when I bring in the kind of results that I do with the testimonials and the case studies, people stop and they go, we want that. And I'm not unique. That's what I really want you to understand. I'm not unique, and the techniques are not unique to me. You could be using them. The biggest challenge that you have is being able to get to the decision makers and impressing upon them that by changing their mindset slightly, that they could be impacting the response rates dramatically. And the best way of doing that sincerely is start with a small, targeted program or project. Don't turn it into, you're not going to turn it into policy right away. Take one program, ask for a little more money, just for that one, really do it right. You will be so amazed what the response rates are going to be. Use that as a basis to continue the conversation. Truly. I can't impress that upon you any more than I do. Okay? The rest of the piece, the rest of everything is, as I said, you loved it, the slides were amazing, we laughed, we cried. We're in the healing process right now, you know. But I gave it all to you. I mean, if I went through the slides, you would see that most of it. We talked about all of this stuff already, and I've told you about direct mail. So really, and this is sort of exactly what we talked about before. It is this exact chain. The fact that we started here, we needed print to be more than stagnant. We needed it to change. We evolved to variable. While we digitized our print, we learned how to be able to use HTML to take it up to websites. While we had that, we talked to people, we got their information, etc. So, anyway, if there's anything I want you to walk away with today is this. This is the new print. And this. Does that make sense? Let me tell you something. I am no longer a designer. I'm not playing semantics with you. I'm no longer a graphic designer. I am considered a content creator. I create content, and there's no content that I create that does not have the intent of being repurposed. Cool? Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for and by the way, let me, before you go, this is completely off the cuff. This is between us. You know that I do this a lot. I'm all over. I cannot impress this upon you more. I go into towns where there are a lot of great printers, and they don't do things like this. The fact that McCardle felt that it was important to do a seminar like this takes time, logistics, money, okay? And when McCardle does something like this, it is because sincerely they want to be a part of the solution by bringing folks like me in to share information and knowledge with you. The best way that I could ask you to repay them, first and foremost, just out of good graciousness, thank them. Go to the people who were involved and say thank you. And then certainly, however you can, know that these are people who really want to partner. In as much as Annie and I, from Sappy's part, want to partner with you also. So, again, thanks. Have a great, rest of the day, and I hope all your print meets your expectations.
Thanks,